I want to talk about prayer today, and the topic of prayer has been really active in my mind since the prayer class that we had, and I had some more insights to share, some more angles in, looking through the house through different windows. And I know that we have often talked about different spiritual tools and practices. There are so many: meditation and dance and spiritual study and music, and there are so many spiritual practices. But the central, eh, perhaps the most important spiritual practice in all of unity is, and all of New Thought, prayer can be argued to be the most important. Whether it's the most important for you, it's each of us has one that we gravitate to, but Unity and New Thought really emphasizes prayer. And the fourth principle of unity um, also states that prayer aligns us with God. And I like to think of prayer as a communion or a conversation or a dialogue with God. You can also think of prayer as being focused thought. And I was referring to the real energy that's changed in our minds. I read an article the other day that said with a magnetized device that doesn't even touch your head, they can sense your brain waves. So your brain rate waves are real. They're sending something outside into the field that is magnetic at a minimum. I think our understanding is very immature in this area, and people that are exploring quantum mechanics are saying, yeah, thought matters. It's the thing that is the butterfly's wings that move the furthest star. Um, so talking about prayer is so important, and I wanted to start with four questions that I started the meditation class with, and these four questions are: when do you pray? And what do you pray for, typically speaking? Is there something you pray for more than other things? There's no right or wrong answers here, just an examination of this next question. When you pray, who or what do you believe you're speaking to? And when you pray, what are you talking from? If you're talking with the God of your understanding, what are you talking from? What consciousness are you talking from? And I will say very clearly at the top here, there's no right or wrong way to pray. And I'll explain later that beyond technique, feelings, and the consciousness with which you bring are the important part, the intention. The religious science calls it fire versus technique. Someone can have all the technique in the world, but if they don't have the fire, it doesn't work. Think of a singer. They can have all the technical parts down, but if they aren't feeling the emotions themselves, those emotions don't carry through. I know Amy knows this as a performer. Um, and so there is no right or wrong way of pray, but I invite you to expand your idea of prayer. That's what today is about, because many of us have learned to pray in a way that is so ingrained in us that we don't always see that prayer style, that technique, if you will, doesn't even jive with who we think God is today, because that prayer style may have been given to us when we were much younger. And to that point, does this sound familiar? Um, oh God, please, please, please give me that job. Please give me, I need help. Uh, I need, I need that thing. I need this to happen. Does that sound familiar at all? It feels familiar because I think, unless you were raised in New Thought, you were probably raised in some uh, religious or faith tradition where praying was like that. It's called supplication. Um, and after I say please and I ask for please, please, please give me that job, you can imagine a big voice saying, "Okay, David, since you are begging so well, I will consider your request." and I will grant that request at a time of my choosing. And you know, and I'm thinking, yeah, because if you're talking and you're asking, you're begging, there's all kinds of assumptions. Maybe some of them don't even you're not even really aware of all the assumptions that you're carrying during this prayer. There might be a feeling of if I haven't prayed lately, or if I haven't been good, or if I haven't worked on my relationship with God, that God is going to be not happy. God is going to be a judging God. God is going to be a punishing God. God is going to be like Santa Claus. God is going to be perhaps like the archetypical parent in the sky with I mean, what do you see? You see maybe clouds. You see a gray hair, right? You don't see maybe, I don't know, you see gray hair and a beard, and you see maybe seated at the right-hand side, Jesus or something. You know, you see what you see. You see, golden gates of heaven and things like that. What do you see? And maybe uh, you see a male. Do you see a female? Is God neither male nor female or both? Something to think about, something to think about. And I am always a big proponent of uh, all of us have an individual view. None of us view God exactly the same, no matter how many texts you read. All of us have a very unique view of God. Therefore, all of us have a very unique way of praying. So this is kind of a chance to expand both how we view God and how we pray. I was thinking also my childhood prayer was infant Jesus, meek and mild, pity me, a little child. Take my heart and bless it, and let no evil ever possess it. Turns out that first line is a real thing. The rest of it I can't even find on Google because it turns out that my family just somehow handed that down. My family was Catholic for generations, and somewhere along the way, somebody maybe changed a word accidentally and blended it with another prayer, and it just became a thing. How about this one? I went online and I looked at popular children's prayers, and some of us may recognize these. Infant Jesus, come to me. What father, mother, and teachers say, I'll do at once. Yes, right away. All that they want, I must fulfill. And should wicked Satan say to me, come, little friend, walk my way, I'll say, no, no, I can't go. I'll only go with Jesus' child. Good night. Right? Um, One more that someone reminded me of recently. I pray the Lord, oh, now I lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I awake, I pray the Lord my soul to take. Good night, little one. I laugh at these. It is so, I see you guys laughing. And, after we've been here in New Thought, we think, gosh, how damaging psychologically to send a kid to bed to sleep with these thoughts and their dreams and the trauma and all this. And it's something that we maybe have to unwind and relearn. I'm reading about in the chat, Chris says, God is Santa Claus. Learning about affirmative prayer was a big thing for me, life-changing. Yeah, me too. It was like, what? I finally found something like this. I'm sure your stories are similar. So this all begs the question of, how do we think of God now? Not only in our logical mind, but are we carrying inner child stuff that we need to, um, let's see, revisit, repair, upgrade, update in our relationship with God? Because prayer, we can build our relationship, we can grow our relationship with God in this conversation with God. Are there other ways that we can talk to God that might be useful? And I'll say again, how you pray is how you pray. Don't let anyone ever tell you you're praying wrong. New Thought will just tell you that there's an expansive way to think about God and prayer. So, and it's the way we teach. Um, And I think about songs, every song that Amy sings, every song that Karen Drucker sings. I just think, you are the face of God. God is holding me now. I am so blessed. I am a blessing to the world. These are things where you're being reminded of your divinity. They're not begging for God to do things, okay? They're reminders of our divinity. And most of the songs that we have in this service are essentially that. And the messages that come through are ones that say, yeah, David, Satan, David, little child, inner child, Satan is not going to come after you to get your soul. You're not a sinner. You're divine, as a matter of fact. So along this line, I figured I wanted to just review real quickly. I talked a year ago about the three faces of God, and Denise Lesia, our licensed Unity teacher, really got me excited about this particular lens. I think it's Paul Smith is the author of this book. And feel free to type it in the chat, Denise, if you have the exact title. But he talks about this concept of the three faces of God. Um, and one of them is talking about God in the third person, talking about God. There's nowhere that God is not. God is the one presence and one power. It's a force and a source. My God is awesome. There is nothing impossible in God. These are ways we can talk about God in this revelatory, in this worshiping, in this devotional way. Okay, and that's one beautiful way that we can come. We can pray through that way, and there are so many types of prayer that do that. The next, so that's God in the third person, talking about God. Thank you, Denise. It's called Integral Christianity by Paul Smith. Then there's God in the second person, where we're talking to God. This is a very familiar one because it's what most of us learn. It's a wonderful place to begin, but I recommend not ending there. Um, and maybe this is the place you go that gives you the most comfort when you're most scared. And I've always said, if you're if you're scared and you need to pray in a way that your soul and inner child still understand, and you don't want to go to affirmational prayer right away, pray in this way. Say, God, help me. Uh, it's a conversation with God in the second person. So that's what I love about this book is it respects different lenses with which we can which we can view God. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. The meta prayer, may all beings be happy. But if we get stuck in this prayer style, not knowing other types of prayer styles, we too often get stuck in this separative, this separation. Is there a word separative? This state of separation where we're asking God things to get things from God because we don't see our own divinity. And as Michael Beckwith said, we're not trying to make God be God. We're trying to let God be God as our lives. Hence, we say there's only one power and one presence, uh, expressing as me, right? Expressing as me. So this is where we switch to God in the first person. God in me, through me, as me. You are the face of God, right? And um, in a prayer class recently, I spent a lot of time going through the prayer steps of unity, which really hang out in this realm of God as me. And it's very powerful. And I noted that unity's prayer steps, not everyone agrees exactly what those prayer steps are named or exactly what those prayer steps mean. And in Centers for Spiritual Living, they're slightly different. They're slightly different. They're called different things. And then in Agape, they've got some different, steps. So these are all new thought traditions. But I decided to look across the spectrum and see what they have in common. And these are the three things that came out. Really simple. Number one, God is all there is. Number two, I and you are one with God, therefore we are divine. Okay, we're one with this God source. Number three, we co-create. So number one, God is all there is. Number two, I'm one with God. Three is I co-create. I'm going to explain each one of these briefly. The advice I would give anyone that wants to know about prayer steps is this first step is the most important because it defines it's God is all there is. It defines and puts us in the space of there is nowhere where God is not. We're all connected. We're not alone. Separation is a grand illusion of consciousness. There is a power when we realize that God is all there is and that we're not separate from our divinity. And when in prayer, when in doubt, just think of God. I've mentioned the book by Matthew Fox, The Golden Key. The trick is not to, he said, you don't have to read this whole book, just read this one sentence. When I believe like when in doubt, think of God. Just think of God. Someone may have the exact quote in there, but this is really basically it. Just think of God. The other day, I needed guidance and I needed prayer and I was really tired and I found myself in a space wanting to commune with God and I didn't want to go through prayer steps. I didn't want to go to affirmation. And I just lay there and just envisioned myself just communing with God, just being at one with God and God as myself, God's self, and just relaxing into this space, knowing that I didn't even need to ask a question. I didn't need to ask a question. I just needed to just be with God. And there was a minister that I know named Reverend Jane Beach, and she calls this her God time. I know a few of you know Jane Beach, and she would say, "Oh, well, oh, I can't go over there with you. I've got to go home because I'm going to have my God time." And she would schedule in, God time. And she just loved to be in this state of just simply being with God. And when you are there, answers will appear, comfort will happen, calm will happen. So when in doubt, just think of God. And if God is harmony and love and peace and prosperity and abundance and guidance and wisdom and wholeness, then we are these things too, because the next step is we are one with God, we are divine. So all these things that God is, which you can call God qualities, all these things I am. All these things you are. All these things we are. So uh, it's a beautiful thing. And as we embrace this divinity, these words come about as the most useful way, I think, of going to the second part of prayer. So we've captured the God essence and agreed that it is us too, we are divine. And now we are in this co-creation essence where we can use words like I am, which is the classical affirmation. I am whole. I am worthy. I am abundant. I am filled with all the knowledge that I need. So I am. The next, there's more. I am. I affirm. I see. I know. I have. And they have something in common. They're all truth statements not based upon the condition we see in the world, but based upon these aspects of God that we know are real. We did it during the meditation. We could see harmony happening despite the appearance and the condition of harmony not happening. Okay. So I think the key here, once again, is to feel the feeling. And in this case, if you're trying to manifest abundance, you have to feel the feeling tone and use some of these words. I'll just take abundance as a case. I am prosperous. I affirm prosperity is active in my life. I see transactions and people and relationships. I see answers. I see an abundance of solutions. I see an abundance of ideas. I see an abundance of money in my bank account. I see an abundance of transactions where money is coming to me and I'm able to spend. And so there's this circulation. I'm able to give freely. I'm seeing and knowing that I have this energy called abundance, and it just so happens to be that it's represented in money, but it's also represented in abundance of everything. This abundance is my unlimited source and supply. I know it, I feel it, I have it. So you see how that works? I'm speaking as if I already have it. I am in the vibratory field. And this is where the work of the law of attraction comes in. TJ Woodward talks about the law of radiance. He says, we're not just attracting these things, we're radiating these things. We are abundance. We are abundance. So we are making abundance happen in our lives. So this is another way we can view how prayer gets answered and manifested. So something else in our prayer class, we talked about focusing on praying with others, praying for others, as we did during that meditation. And I've often said that we all have heard there's no quicker way of changing consciousness than counting gratitudes, right? If you're having trouble going to sleep at night, list things that you're grateful for. Well, there's one more to add to this toolkit that I have discovered, and it's praying for other people. If you ever want to shift consciousness, if you ever need to relax or you want to fall asleep, just go to bed thinking about I'm praying for this person and going through some of this language, except if you're doing it for another person, you would say, I can see that she is absolute harmony and wholeness. I can see absolute joy expressing as her. I'm knowing that whatever she's going through is just a condition, and the truth behind her reality is this unlimited source and supply of wisdom and guidance. I can see that happening with this person right now. And whatever language you want to paint into it, you can visualize this, but feel the feeling. Feel the feeling of it. You're holding a high watch for them. You have to believe in it 100%. You're holding a high watch. So, in conclusion, this is just one window, one conversation about prayer. There is no wrong way to pray. Feelings are more important than technique. The fire in the prayer is more important than the technique. Um, and when in doubt, just think of God and don't worry about anything else. Just think of God and know that this God relationship is one that you can mature and grow, and you can become closer to God over your spiritual journey. And so it is.